Good afternoon everybody, Beth here again for another Wednesday Wellbeing video. This week we're looking at supporting children and young people through coronavirus and lockdown. Thanks to a suggestion that I had after last week's video when we were looking at supporting people through coronavirus. Now I think there's some overlap. Some of the issues are very similar to those that we face, but I think you can appreciate that children generally have less experience than us. They're less they have less well-developed coping strategies. They have less emotional intelligence and less control over their own lives. And add into that the family dynamics that we're being sort of unnaturally close to each other within a household and for an unnatural amount of time, or at least an unusual amount of time, and the situation can get difficult for some. Now, I know a lot of you will know that I'm not a mother, so and I know there's no simple answers. I don't want you to think that I'm saying to you this is how to be a mother or a parent. I'm just here because I've done the time-consuming bit of trawling through articles and resources online, and I've drawn something together which you may or may not find helpful. Because children are even less able to say when they've got a problem, and they may not even realise that they have got a problem, we need to stay more alert to how they're managing. Usually with children, they're not going to come up to us and say, "Mother, I'm not coping very well with coronavirus, and I'm struggling with anxiety." So we need to pay attention to changes in behaviour to see if they're struggling. For young children, they might go back to bedwetting or sucking their thumb. Children might be more prone to mood swings or irritability. They might be having difficulty sleeping or changes in their appetite. They might appear consistently down or low. They might be more tearful, might not be enjoying the usual play that they do. They might be withdrawing from family, and they may even be expressing fears about family members or themselves based on information they've picked up from around the place, such as, you know, they may be saying, "Is Granny going to die?" Or "Am I going to die?" or things like that. You don't have to wait until somebody's struggling before you can make changes to help and prevent. I've got 9 areas really that you can potentially address. The first one is establishing a routine, and I've talked about routines many times before in these videos, but especially they are important for children. It doesn't have to be necessarily a very rigid routine. Even a loose timetable can help. Children need to know what's going to be happening when they're at home. That would be when they're likely to be doing schoolwork, chores, play. It doesn't have to be the same as a school day, as long as it fits with your day and their own needs. That's fine. In a way, you've got a bit more freedom. So if what works for them is doing half an hour schoolwork followed by 15 minutes of play, followed by another half an hour of schoolwork, or whatever, that's what you can do, and you can adapt it to suit the individual needs of your children. It's difficult, obviously, to fit their timetable with your own time constraints. You have your own responsibilities. You may be working from home, but do try to timetable family time at some point during the week, and make a pleasant family activity that the children will want to do. That's something that will obviously fit within the current regulations, whether it's a picnic or a bike ride or a board games time, or anything like that, something that can involve all the family to have some fun together. Involve some exercise, preferably every day, which is good for their physical and mental health, and gets them tired for sleeping better, and it'll wear off some of that excess energy and help them to stay calm. Without this structure in their day, children can get quite anxious and upset without necessarily understanding why. And it may be that they're saying they don't want to get up out of bed, but it doesn't mean that it isn't beneficial for them. So number 2 on the list is to talk with them about the facts of coronavirus and about their feelings around it. Most children will be old enough to understand that something's going on. Even a babe in arms may well sense that there's some kind of situation going on with the changes in routines that they're experiencing. Children are very good at picking up on the anxieties of adults as well. They may be sensing other people's anxiety, and obviously depending on the age of the child, they may pick up information from social media, from YouTube, from friends, television news, from newspapers. It's I think important that you make sure that they understand the basic simple facts in an appropriate way for their age, and you know your child best, so you'll know what level to pitch the information. Our government has a book, a factual book for children, and I'll put a link to the PDF in the comments, and again I'll link to this one. There's an internationally developed storybook that helps to explain what's going on and what individual children need to do differently and why. You can also use play or toys to help explain what's going on, if that's what works for your child. It may be that it's not appropriate for you to go into lots of detail, like how many deaths there have been and all the people you know who've had coronavirus. It may be that you don't want to say we can't go to grandma's in case we make her poorly. Maybe it's better to say we're not going to grandma's yet, but we will go soon, so that you're not putting fears into their minds. And you need to listen and talk about their feelings about coronavirus and everything that's going on. There's a huge amount going on, really. And in doing so, you need to reassure them that their feelings are valid, so that they know it's okay to be open and honest about their feeling. Now, some children find it difficult to talk about their feelings, and some find it easier to write it down. So they may want to write it down on a piece of paper, or messenger, or text message, or email. But whatever method you're using to have the conversation, let them know that you're on their side. It may be that talking about it is enough for them, but if they are still anxious, there's lots of online resources to help you to work through their worries with them, or for them to work them through on their own, depending at what level they're at. Again, I'll put links in the comments. There's some good resources on the Childline website, I think some on the NSPCC website. But working and developing strategies together will help them to learn how to problem solve, and it will help them to learn how to deal with emotions as well. And so in some ways this may be quite a valuable experience for them. Just a note of caution, I think it's quite important to avoid talking about your own anxieties about coronavirus in earshot of your children. We've all got them, of course we have, but perhaps if you can talk about it with friends or your partner after they've gone to bed, or when at some point where they can't hear you, where they're not going to pick up that anxiety for themselves. Number 3 is one we've discussed before as well: limit access to news and maybe even to social media. Now, social media is becoming more and more important to us at the moment, but be mindful of what they're doing on social media. Remind them that not all sources of news are reliable. Many are sensationalised, many are fake news sources, especially on social media. And you may need to educate yourself about how to spot fake news in order to help your children do that. So you may need to be a bit aware about what they're doing on social media and what their friends are sharing. And if it's becoming a problem, you might want to unfollow certain pages or people, or hide them, and just to be aware about the amount of time that they're spending on social media as well, because although it's an important way of getting social contact, it can also be detrimental to mental health in some circumstances. So that leads us on to social contact. Number 4 is to facilitate social contact. And I think for children it's even more important to maintain contact with important people to help reduce anxiety. And again, as we've discussed before, social media may be one route, as long as it's a form of social media that's appropriate for the age of your child. But it may be that you decide it's better for them to have Zoom meetings with school friends. It might be that you want to organise family Zoom games, or have Grandad read the bedtime story via FaceTime, or maybe even have play dates with their friends from school over Skype. Kids can be very creative and adaptable in some circumstances, and it may be that they can work out how to play together even through a screen. As the lockdown rules are being eased, there may be increasing opportunities to socialise, just as a reminder to reinforce whatever the current rules are, and make sure that they understand that. Number 5 is to find activities that will be a positive distraction from worrying. Now, sometimes it's really difficult to find activities for kids to do that aren't based on screens. It might be baking or craft activities or science experiments that you found on the internet. I know Jade on a Wednesday morning has been having some great discussions about different activities to do with children. Number 6 is to allow the children some control over what's going on in their own lives. So there's so much uncertainty at the moment, so much change in the rules, the government controlling much more of our lives. We're not sure what the lockdown rules are much of the time, and when they're changing, and when lockdown is going to end. They may be worried about all the changes that have gone on in their schooling and exams, and so on. I mean, most of us are finding it extremely unsettling, all the changes that are going on. And so some of the areas you can give them control. It might be simple things like choosing what to have for tea, what film to watch, what to do in family time, and you may need to enforce a rota on making those decisions, so it's fair for all children to get a chance to decide. But another thing is, if you are using any coping strategies with them, for them to choose which they want to try, and maybe even to take control over actually applying them as well. Number 7 is to prepare them for returning to school. Now, it may be that some of them have gone back already, but if not, prepare them for any differences that they're going to face in what school's going to look like when they get there, and how they're going to learn. It may be that there's information from the school to help you with this. At least there should be information for you if they haven't prepared specific information for the children. And check your child's expectations of what they'll find is going to be realistic. So you might want to do that by saying, what are you looking forward to the most about going back to school? And if they tell you something that is obviously not going to fit with how school is going to work when they get back, you may need to address that with them. And again, listen to the worries and encourage them encourage them to talk to you about how they're feeling about school, and as they go back, you know, how they're reacting to it. So offer lots of reassurance, and again, use the tools from the websites that I'm going to put links to. Number 8 is to try to avoid or at least manage family arguments. Now, if you can completely avoid family arguments, then I'm impressed, and I want to know how you do it. I think they're bound to happen when we're cooped up together more than usual. It's going to be a naturally frustrating situation. There are some things you can do to try and prevent these arguments arising. Like I've already said, making sure there's fair allocation of choice of TV viewing, for example, fair allocation of chores and treats. You can model appropriate disagreement yourself, and model kindness and saying thank you when your child has done something good. You can involve them in the processes of problem solving over flashpoints, so the things that trigger the arguments. If you involve them in the process of working out how to solve this problem and avoid it in the future, they're more likely to stick to the plan and see it through. You may need to try really hard to stay calm and approachable, even when you're angry at some of the behaviour that your child is displaying. You are better equipped to be able to control your emotions and your behaviour than they are. I'm not suggesting that this is easy, but if you can model a good behaviour, be a good example of how to deal with disagreement and anger, then they will learn from you. Encourage the children to deal with their stress, as we've talked about, and when arguments happen, it's best to deal with the situation when everybody's cooled down, including us, and get everybody to disperse and just have a bit of alone time and chill, and then address what happened when everybody's cooled down. You may want to take a bit of one-to-one time with the children then to address what happened, and allow each family member times on their own, so that they're less frustrated with each other when disagreements arrive. And the last point, number 9, is to look after yourself. Your kids need you, so it's really important that you do look after yourself. You need to look after your own physical health, your own mental health. Get support from friends and family where you need it, or from your GP, or helplines if you're struggling. Don't be hard on yourself. Life is really tough at the moment, and life is tough at the best of times, but this is definitely not the best of times. Don't judge your parenting by other people's social media or how other people are appearing to cope. There is no such thing as a perfect parent. Very often our social media presence is not an accurate portrayal of our lives. But I've whizzed through that really quickly, I'm sorry. It's not a list of instructions to you, it's a list of ideas for you to draw upon if you want to. I hope they're helpful to you. But otherwise, this is it for the moment, and I hope you have a good week.